It's late November 2025 and Cyclone Senyar is barreling towards the Indonesian island of Sumatra. A rare, exceptionally powerful tropical storm, bringing days of torrential rains, causing flash floods and landslides that swallow entire villages in 3 provinces: North Sumatra, West Sumatra and Aceh. Many communities are cut off, without food, without clean water. Hundreds of thousands of people are displaced. But this is not just a story about a cyclone. It's about political decisions, decades of environmental degradation that made villages more vulnerable to natural disasters. And what many said was a slow response from the government that failed them in their hour of need. We arrive in North Sumatra a few days after flash floods and landslides sweep across the province. With communications still cut off in some parts of the affected areas, we don't yet have a full picture of the extent of the damage. Search crews are digging through the mud to retrieve bodies from under the dirt. In North Tapanuli, Nani Sitanjak invites us to see her village, at least what's left of it.
Air bayi itu, ku tengok langsung ibu dari atas datang. Ini ku tengok semua ini tanah ini, Bu. Bahkan yang meninggal itu minta tolong. Pas aku tempat ibu sana duduk, tolong katanya 3 kali. Tapi enggak kami tolong, kami takut terjebak juga.
Her home of more than 20 years was flattened. She says she can't even tell where her house used to be.
Uang, kekayaan, harta, jabatan bisa dicari. Kalau napas ini kan Bu, nggak bisa kan. Itulah yang kuucapkan sama Tuhan, Bu. Terima kasih banyak.
Pressure is growing on the central government to declare a national disaster to free up more resources to help the affected areas, as communities grapple with a shortage of supplies, including food and fuel.
Bisa segera kirim bantuan-bantuan yang diperlukan, terutama BBM yang sangat penting. Listrik sebentar lagi saya kira bisa dibuka semuanya.
The Tapanuli areas are among the worst hit. Landslides have buried entire villages. Many roads are damaged or blocked by debris. We meet a group of women who say they trekked for 3 hours from their village in central Tapanuli just to get rice. Days after the disaster, they say no aid has reached them and their loved ones are hungry.
Banyak di kampung kami ini nggak punya rumah lagi, Bu, nggak punya pakaian, nggak punya apa-apa. Bahkan lagi kawan kami pun kehilangan kami, kawan kami nggak dapat dibawa apa, hanyut.
People here tell us of the terrifying ordeal watching as multiple landslides swept through their villages, their homes, livelihoods destroyed in minutes. Sri Yuni Pardede says she was home with her daughter, 1-year-old Eleanor, when she heard a loud crash. In the darkness, she grabbed her child and fled to a nearby church.
Inang, udah jatuh lagi, ku bilang. Enggak, itu geluduk, katanya kan. Enggak, Inang, udah bergoyang rumah ini. Enggak, selang yang ku bilang itu, berjatuhan lah batu yang besar.
Many villages are cut off with no telecommunications. A week later, roads to some previously inaccessible areas are beginning to reopen. Al Jazeera's Indonesia team is on the move. We arrive in Aceh Tamiang, home to more than 300,000 people. Everywhere we go, we see people in shock, their bodies caked in mud. The level of destruction here, the governor of Aceh has described it as a situation such that some villages exist by name alone because there's simply nothing left. Take a look at this village. All of the houses here essentially disappeared into the mud, pushed away by floodwaters. For more than a week, Masiani and her family have slept on cardboard under a plastic sheet.
Ceret aja nggak bisa, tanahnya segini Bu, nggak bisa diambil apapun. Semua benda-benda jualan itu habis semua Bu.
We saw some help arriving, including food and heavy machinery. But local authorities say they are struggling to meet the needs of the community.
Pemerintah daerah dikatakan kewalahan, ya kewalahan juga Bu. Artinya boleh kita katakan lumpuh kita Bu. Ya kan, seluruh infrastruktur pemerintahan itu semuanya tenggelam. Tentu pemerintah daerah Kabupaten Aceh Timur sangat berharap terutama kepada pemerintah pusat ya kan untuk membantu masyarakat Aceh Timur yang
People are hungry, even asking our team if we have food to share. Survivors, including children, beg on the side of the road. Despite its vast natural resources, Aceh is one of Indonesia's poorest provinces. Most people had very little to begin with, just enough for basic survival. Now they have nothing. For hundreds of thousands, the daily challenges of life without a home, with their livelihoods destroyed, are felt deeply. The vulnerable, including the elderly, suffer the most. Oki Abdallah's mother has been ill since the floods hit. In the extreme heat, she's shaking and gets weaker each day.
Dalam keadaan banjir saya gotong. Sampai sekarang dia tidak bisa berjalan lagi. Dari awal banjir sampai sekarang nggak bisa berjalan apapun. Sekarang sayalah yang mengurus ibu saya dalam keadaan tempat puing-puing kerusakan banjir. Ini rumah-rumah saya.
By December the 7th, central government officials say power has been restored. But we're in Aceh Tamiang and it's in darkness. No electricity here. People are doing their activities here in the dark, trying to find supplies. Let me give you a look at some of the damage in this area, the center of town, a busy shopping area. Take a look at these cars coated in mud. All of this debris here blocking the entrances to these shops as well. Stores selling things like phones, small restaurants as well. All of this closed because of the damage. Gimana Pak situasinya? Biasanya jam segini masih buka ya? Masih ramai. Tapi sekarang?
Sekarang sepi karena kayak gini ya.
People are afraid and exhausted, with nothing to do but wait for help. December the 9th, we accompany a field team from Save the Children Indonesia, delivering clean water to a community in desperate need.
So we try to access the isolated area, and our doctors also, describing that a lot of children have skin problems because there's still no clean waters, diarrhea as well, because obviously the sanitation is difficult, it's worse, and flu as well because rain is still happening.
The spread of illnesses is exacerbated by the fact that the local hospital is flooded. Boxes of medicine destroyed, medical devices rendered unusable. 10 patients died when the hospital lost power, including a newborn baby on oxygen support. Soldiers and hospital staff clean up some of the mess. After days of hard work, the hospital's emergency room reopens.
Kasus yang terbanyak adalah kena kaca, kena paku, sesak napas terbanyak. Untuk anak-anak dan dewasa itu penyakit yang ada.
As the days go by, frustration is growing. In some areas in Aceh, people hike more than 5 hours barefoot in the mud just to find food for their families. It's several weeks since the disaster. The central government says the situation is under control and resists calls to declare a national disaster. Of the affected provinces, Aceh has the worst damage. December the 15th, the president announces he will set up a task force to oversee reconstruction and responds to criticism the government isn't doing enough.
Dalam keadaan yang sulit, ada kecenderungan manusia dan juga bangsa kita ini saya lihat ya, terutama sebagian elit-elit kita, ada kecenderungan mau cari kambing hitam, mau cari kesalahan. Ini bukan saat untuk kita cari kesalahan, ini untuk kita bekerja keras, bahu-membahu mengatasi masalah di lapangan.
Political analysts point out that declaring a national disaster would unlock more funding for affected communities and allow international aid to enter the country. The Aceh local government has appealed for donations from its own contacts. But without permission from the central government to accept aid from other countries, it's a challenging task. Budget transfers to regional governments have been significantly reduced during Prabowo's presidency. Funding for the National Disaster Management Agency, which coordinates preparedness, mitigation and response to natural disasters, has also been cut. In 2025, the agency was allocated just over $120 million, down from about $260 million in 2024 and more than $320 million in 2023. The budget for 2026 was set at just over $83 million. Experts note that cutting funds results in a slower response to disasters, delaying the delivery of excavators, bulldozers, food and aid kits to communities in need. Indonesia is one of the most disaster-prone countries in the world, with frequent earthquakes, floods and volcanic eruptions.
They think that the disasters is not the first priority. Even educations, they cut the education's budget, they cut the budget for the disaster response, they cut budget for the healthcare to move for the other budget that Prabowo promised during the elections, like a free meal program.
The initiative provides a daily meal for students and pregnant women with the aim of improving childhood nutrition. It was the cornerstone of President Prabowo's election campaign. The budget for the program this year is $20 billion. In response to the criticism, the government says its cost-cutting measures have had no impact on disaster response.
Yang terkikis adalah di dalam pengajuannya adalah hal-hal yang seperti yang tadi saya katakan. Mungkin mereka mengajukan perjalanan luar negeri, perjalanan dalam negeri yang banyak, rapat-rapat di hotel, itulah yang kena. Tapi dalam hal penanganan bencana tidak ada pengurangan sekalipun, tidak ada kaitannya sama sekali. MBG memang program prioritas.
Although a national disaster was never declared, the government says it treated the situation as a national priority. Heaps of timber surround a mosque in Aceh Tamiang, pushed downstream by the floodwaters. These images go viral, sparking public anger. Tarmizi invites us to see what's left of his home. He lives just meters from the mosque. Piles of logs and uprooted trees have destroyed most of his village, including his home.
Waktu siang-siang ini nggak apa-apa, masih air di daerah sana airnya. Nah itu pas maghrib airnya udah nyerang kembali, kayu-kayu udah pada naik. Pas maghrib lah. Udah segini air di sini nih. Kami mengungsi ke atas. Sampai di atas kena juga sampai segini air malam itu. Orang tuh bikin lahan perkebunan. Jadi kayu ditumbangkan semua. Maka dia jatuhlah, waktu banjir jatuhlah kembali, udah ada tahanan lagi.
Indonesia is consistently ranked among the countries with the highest rates of deforestation. Environmental groups say this is the devastation they've been warning about for years. This map shows where deforestation has occurred and which industries are responsible.
Oh, kalau misalnya 90, misalnya kita tinggal pindah barnya di bawah, bagian bawah, nah itu kelihatan masih banyak hijau. Artinya banyak hutannya, di kanan atas itu statistiknya, lalu kemudian tinggal pindah ke 2024, bisa pilih tahun manapun, tapi ke 2024, nah, kelihatan banyak ungunya itu sawit.
Logging for extractive industries such as palm oil and mining has fundamentally changed landscapes, weakening natural buffers and water drainage systems.
Dengan kata lain bahwa pemerintah Indonesia mulai dari pemerintahan sebelum ini berkontribusi terhadap terjadinya bencana yang sangat masif ini.
Environmental groups are urging the government to protect Indonesia's remaining forests and restore damaged areas. Forestry Minister Raja Juli Antony says he will review policies, consider a moratorium on new permits, and revoke the licenses of companies that violate rules. Despite acknowledging that deforestation played a role in worsening the impact of the natural disaster, the government is pressing ahead with other land clearing projects. President Prabowo has announced plans to expand palm oil and cassava plantations for fuel and bioethanol supplies in Indonesia's easternmost provinces.
Tidak ada lagi pembangunan atau pembukaan hutan untuk perkebunan sawit karena kita tahu dampaknya sangat mematikan. Butuh ratusan tahun untuk mengembalikan ke ekosistem semula. Jadi, tetapi bukan berarti kita harus berhenti. Mulai saat ini, pemerintah harus mulai untuk menanam, melakukan reklamasi, rehabilitasi lahan, rehabilitasi di semua wilayah yang saat ini sudah rusak.
People fly white flags across affected areas in Aceh. A call for help. They hope the world is listening. It's December the 19th. In North Aceh area, people say they've been living in these tents for more than 24 days. They bathe in dirty floodwaters. There's still no power. At night, they sit in darkness.
Ada yang kena penyakit ada yang mencret, ada yang sakit perut, ada yang pusing-pusing, mentah-mentah. Itulah anak-anak tu. Orang tua.
Dazed and tired, they don't even know what day it is. It's December the 30th. We meet Nurani, who's sheltering in a tent just meters from her destroyed home in Aceh Tamiang. The house that once belonged to her parents, where she has lived her whole life.
Harapan kami ke depan ya rumah kami lah, Bu. Kok bisa cepat ya Pia, biar kita punya rumah. Biar kita jangan kayak gini ya Bu. Susah Bu kayak gini kami kemana, kami kadang duduk sini, kadang ke sana. Kayak pengemis itulah. Ambil bantuan pun tolak sana, tolak sini. Makan makanan nasi itulah yang diantar-antar kasih orang.
Nearby, we meet Ramadhani and her 9-year-old son, Dimas. He suffered an injury as a baby and cannot walk or speak. He hasn't taken his medication since the floods, nor has he seen a doctor.
Sarafnya ini bengkak. Dia harus minum vitamin untuk vitamin mata. Yang memang harganya seberapa Bu, tapi baginya ini sudah besar. Ini emang dari dulu tuh bawa ke dokter terus. Ya karena dibawa ke dokter, ditanganin, dia sehat.
Like Dimas, many of the children we meet appear to be unwell. With so much debris everywhere, the air is thick with smog. Tens of thousands of houses across the 3 provinces are severely damaged. The majority of these were in Aceh. Local authorities say they're trying to get people into temporary accommodation as soon as possible.
Kita terus bekerja atas bantuan dari segala lini, baik dari pemerintah pusat, dibantu juga oleh TNI, Polri, dan relawan-relawan yang telah hadir ke Tamiang. Mudah-mudahan kita doakan dalam waktu yang secepatnya kita akan berupaya agar masyarakat kita bisa pulang ke rumahnya masing-masing, dan juga yang di pengungsian nanti akan kita tempatkan di tempat di perumahan sementara, dan juga jangka panjangnya akan kita buat hunian tetap.
It's the end of the year and patience is wearing thin. In many of the villages we visited, people said they have not received basic assistance such as a tent. People in this community of Kota Lintang Bawah said they built their own shelters out of plastic sheeting and pieces of wood. Think tank Cilios estimates that the damage will cost the Indonesian economy more than $4 billion. That figure includes economic losses caused by damage to roads and other infrastructure, as well as disruptions to agricultural production and household income. Even as some businesses begin to reopen in Aceh, the struggle is not over. The livelihoods of many small business owners have been destroyed, their stores in ruins. Now they're making do with whatever they can salvage. Juliet Apin has run this furniture store for more than 20 years.
Saya yang hancur 95%. Yang bisa diselamatkan hanya yang plat sama lemari plastik.
Some people have relocated from Aceh Tamiang, tired of waiting for the situation to improve. But most say they have nowhere to go and no money to move elsewhere. In a tent with 13 of her relatives, we meet Masiani again. We first met her in early December, the week after the floods. She and her family, including 7 grandchildren, are living in a tent supplied by the National Disaster Agency, eating packed meals distributed by volunteers.
Ini semalam juga mencret, ini tadi juga demam, semua demam Bu. Kayak saya mesti pilek, sampai batuk, panas dalam, WC nggak ada. Ya pakai plastik lah, mau buang jauh dikit lah daripada yang di rumah orang.
Her husband is working again and earning enough just to buy the very basics. Without savings and her possessions destroyed, all she can do is wait for help and pray that it is coming soon.
Rumahnya yang nggak ada lagi Bu, cuman tapaknya boleh lihat kita. Saya mau dibuatkan rumah lah Bu. Mau dibuatkan rumah yang layak saya bisa pakai, cepat pulih, kayak gitu.
Like many here, she is desperate to close this traumatic chapter. But it's difficult to forget the moment muddy waters came gushing through her home. People here don't have the power to question the political decisions that make their communities more vulnerable to disasters. Weeks after the floods, they're still caked in mud. Their voices are hoarse from sleeping rough for weeks. They only have energy to cope with the basics, what they need to survive as they wait and hope for easier days ahead.